breaking news and a live look right now at the world-famous Bourbon Street in New Orleans, where it is completely silenced after this morning's terrorist attack. A stark contrast from the celebrations happening nearly 24 hours ago. An eerie scene there. An instant. Sounds of celebration for the new year turned into terrifying screams, the roar of a truck engine, and gunfire. Within minutes, at least 15 people were killed, dozens others injured. Nicole Valdez has the latest.
The FBI says the man who rammed a pickup truck into a crowd celebrating the new year in the heart of New Orleans may have had help carrying out the deadly attack. The attacker has been identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar, a 42-year-old Army veteran who was born in the U.S. and lived in Texas.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
The incident is being investigated as an act of terrorism.
After hitting the crowd, he exited the vehicle and fired upon local law enforcement.
Responding officers returned fire and the man was pronounced dead at the scene. The FBI says a black ISIS flag had been flying from the rear bumper of the vehicle, an electric Ford pickup truck that appears to have been rented. President Biden addressed the nation Wednesday night after receiving additional briefings from his Homeland Security team.
The FBI is leading the investigation to determine what happened, why it happened, whether there was any continuing threat to public safety. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill.
In New Orleans' French Quarter, a street security upgrade was underway, but not yet completed.
Whatever the problem was, is going to be solved.
We had barriers there, we had officers there, and they still got around.
Police had positioned a cruiser along Bourbon Street after the city temporarily removed protective barriers designed to block traffic. Nicole Valdez, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Well, the president also noted the explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck outside Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas on Wednesday, killing one person inside that vehicle. He said investigators are probing to see if there's any connection to that attack in New Orleans. Of course, we'll continue coverage on the explosion in the next half hour. All right, a few hours